I think African higher education institutions are in what you would call a phase of recovery. We've gone through the crisis, we've overcome the crisis with the support of various stakeholders. We are now going through, uh, so there's been a phase of revitalization. We've moved away from just talking about infrastructures and broken labs, libraries that do not function to a much more confident state of recovery. So we're now talking about the content of our higher education institutions. We're talking now about programs. We're talking about particularly rebuilding the next generation of African academics with a major emphasis on doctoral and postdoctoral training and a focus on excellence and retention. Excellence means we must be connected to a wider community of scholars, or wider communities of scholars in our different disciplines. And that is where an association like the African Studies Association is very important for us in the humanities, in the social sciences, and I even think in the natural sciences, because there are connections in botany, in biology, even in medicine, that I think ASA should open up to all of us. I think the need to connect to the wider world, the need to enhance and reinforce our standards and quality, the need not to be isolated, the need to also be innovative and break barriers and boundaries. Those needs are the needs that determine our relationship with African Studies Association, African higher education institutions, African scholars, and African Studies Association. But I think what is important for the African Studies Association and its members is to move away from seeing the African higher education terrain as a market. There is the tendency to commoditize education these days. And you can see that with the WTO, and you can see that with all of these international protocols on the movement of goods and the movement of persons. So education, higher education has become a commodity. But that's not the way the African community of scholars want to see themselves. They don't want to see themselves as objects. They want to see themselves as real and true partners. They believe they bring some strong knowledge elements to the table, and they want our counterparts in the United States of America, in North America in particular, to regard them as such and to bring and to relate to them in such a way. So it's a question of co-equality in joint research. It's a question of co-equality in sabbatical arrangements. It's a question of co-equality or co-curriculum development. It's a question in which we play on the strengths of both sides, the proximity to the terrain, the knowledge that you have, and of course the international connections of our colleagues in ASA. And this is where we need to redefine internationalization. Internationalization so far is asymmetrical. It sees Africa as an object. It sees the leverage in a kind of hierarchy from North American perspective. The time has come to see it as symmetrical. Internationalization should be co-equal. It should be symmetrical. It should be a relationship between equal partners. And that's my strong opinion about how the ASA should begin to think about African higher education and African higher education players. The second thing is that I think the ASA should begin to look at the future more for African higher education. A new community of scholars, new communities of scholars are emerging. New generations of scholars are emerging. It's always been said it is good to catch them young. The ASA maybe should begin to now engage these new generations, the new docs, the new postdocs, and even those who are just finishing graduate school with their masters, and begin to engage them in a way in which there can be meaningful exchanges, both at the institutional and individual levels. And I think that will make a lot of difference. There's a lot of intervention going on now. Some foundations are beginning to intervene at the level of higher education institutions, both in Africa and in North America. I don't want to mention their names, but the ASA should search out those foundations and begin to work with them to build new kinds of linkages that are innovative, that are sustainable, that look at mobility in different kinds of ways. And I think that's an opportunity that wasn't taken very seriously. Each time I've been to ASA meetings, it's always been more engaged with the African diaspora than the mother continent itself. Thank you.